Whereas Oda Nobunaga was becoming stronger in central Japan, the warrior leader Takeda Shingen, alias the Tiger of Kai, was the most feared warlord in the east. He headed the Takeda clan and established his power in the provinces of Kai and Shinano, as well as exporting his influence to neighboring regions such as Suruga and Totomi. Takeda Shingen was not only a tremendous warrior, he was also a brilliant strategist and a capable administrator. Led by him, the Takeda clan achieved a rare internal stability for the period, with an efficient administrative framework based on the Shingen-ko Gunpo, the Shingen military code. He also introduced economic reforms, strengthening the clan's finances and guaranteeing the necessary resources for its military campaigns. One of Shingen's greatest competitors was Tokugawa Ieyasu, an ally of Oda Nobunaga. Both leaders often clashed in fierce battles, contesting control of strategic territories. Shingen saw Ieyasu as a hindrance to his westward expansion, while Ieyasu perceived Shingen as a direct threat to the stability of his Mikawa and Totomi lands. This feud escalated into decisive events, such as the 1572 Battle of Mikatagahara, where Shingen defeated Ieyasu's forces in one of the most stunning victories of the Sengoku period. In the wake of his success at Mikatagahara, Takeda Shingen initiated an ambitious campaign towards Kyoto, intended to destabilize Nobunaga and his allies. Shingen's onward march was a strategic move to cement his power and claim greater political influence in central Japan. He gathered a well-trained and enthusiastic army, made up of his notorious cavalry troops, known for their fighting discipline and efficiency. Along the way, Shingen conquered several fortresses, putting a strain on the territories controlled by Tokugawa Ieyasu and directly endangering Nobunaga's supply routes. Their march also provided a demonstration of strength, inspiring other clans to reconsider their loyalties and even pursue alliances with the Takeda. Yet, Shingen's fate changed radically during this campaign. He fell seriously ill while leading his troops towards Kyoto in 1573. The exact nature of his illness is still uncertain, but historical accounts suggest that he collapsed from a sudden illness that crippled his leadership and halted the Takeda offensive. His death was a shattering blow to the Takeda clan. Without his charismatic and strategic leadership, the clan faced difficulties in maintaining internal harmony. His son and successor, Takeda Katsuyori, took over, with the daunting task of upholding his father's legacy amid mounting pressure from Nobunaga and Ieyasu. Takeda Shingen's sudden death changed the balance of the conflict between the Oda and Takeda clans, providing Nobunaga with the opportunity he urgently needed to confront a weakened Takeda clan. Following Shingen's death, Takeda Katsuyori stepped into the shoes of his clan. Keen to honor his father's legacy, Katsuyori pressed ahead with his expansion plans, focusing on solidifying control over the surrounding provinces and exerting pressure on Tokugawa Ieyasu's territories. He opted to use the formidable Takeda cavalry, one of the most feared armies in Sengoku Japan. The Takeda cavalry was known for its discipline and innovative tactics. Held in rigid formations and conducted by experienced generals, the cavalry had the power to launch devastating attacks, particularly on flat terrain, where their mobility and impact force could be fully exploited. This force was brought to bear during the campaign in Totomi, a region under Tokugawa Ieyasu's control, and vital to the stability of the alliance between Ieyasu and Nobunaga. Katsuyori embarked on an all-out offensive in Totomi, capturing Takatenjin Castle in 1574, a significant victory that dented the morale of Ieyasu's forces. This conquest, however, also exposed the Takeda clan's strategic vulnerabilities. While cavalry was still their greatest strength, the over-reliance on direct assaults began to show its limitations, as Nobunaga and Ieyasu's army increasingly used firearms. When faced with Takeda Katsuyori's movements, Oda Nobunaga acknowledged the need for meticulous groundwork to deal with one of the most powerful armies of the Sengoku period. Intent on protecting his ally Tokugawa Ieyasu and neutralizing Takeda's threat, Nobunaga set about rebuilding his forces. He invested massively in firearms, with the understanding that muskets could neutralize the legendary Takeda cavalry. He enlisted and trained specialized units to handle these weapons in unprecedented numbers in Japan. Nobunaga also developed innovative strategies, such as defensive formations using muskets and coordinated salvos, able to deal huge casualties in cavalry attacks and sustain fire. Besides military strengthening, Nobunaga labored to ensure that his supply lines were secure and effective, guaranteeing that his soldiers were provided with the needed resources for protracted campaigns. He also made use of his spy network to monitor the movements of the Takeda clan, anticipating their tactics and locating strategic vulnerabilities. In 1575, the battlefield was primed for a crucial confrontation that would shape the fate of two powerful clans from the Sengoku period. Keen to expand his clan's influence and wipe out past defeats, Takeda Katsuyori commanded an army of around 15,000 experienced soldiers. These included his celebrated cavalry, known for their strength and discipline, and well-known samurai who symbolized Takeda's prestige and history. Katsuyori besieged Nagashino Castle, a fortress located strategically in Mikawa province under the control of Tokugawa Ieyasu. The siege attempted to dampen the morale of the defenders and severed their supply lines, forcing them to surrender. Nevertheless, Ieyasu, convinced to resist, sent an urgent message to Nobunaga asking for reinforcements. Nobunaga quickly responded, mobilizing an army of 30,000 men to counter the Takeda threat. His force was mainly made up of ashigarus, peasant infantrymen, but also included 3,000 musketeers, fitted with imported firearms, and trained to operate in disciplined formations. Situated on the banks of the Nagashino River, the battlefield was hemmed in by hills and valleys, offering opportunities for defenders and attackers alike. Nobunaga carefully chose his position, building wooden barriers to protect his musketeers and forming an almost impenetrable line of defense. In contrast, Katsuyori relied on the nobility and impact of his cavalry to burst through the enemy lines and seal victory. Trusting in his cavalry's successful track record, Katsuyori ordered a massive charge against Nobunaga's defensive lines. Unknown for their discipline and expertise in swift and devastating combat, the Takeda cavalry charged forward in full force, seeking to crush enemy resistance in a single blow. The Takeda mounted troops were well trained to deliver coordinated attacks that, on other occasions, would have devastated less prepared enemy lines. But as they neared Nobunaga's barricades, the Takeda horsemen encountered an unbreakable barrier. Together, with the carefully chosen terrain, the wooden palisades hampered mobility and minimized the impact of the charges. Katsuyori commanded repeated assaults, but the cavalry's strength started to erode against the rain of bullets shot by Nobunaga's men. Nobunaga's strategic use of muskets was the cornerstone of his defense. He arranged his 3,000 musketeers in 3 distinct lines. This allowed for continuous coordinated firing. While one line was firing, the others were reloading, thereby ensuring a constant barrage of bullets was fired at the Takeda forces. When Takeda cavalry came close, the musketeers opened fire in sweeping volleys. The first horsemen were mowed down before they could even reach the barriers. The thunderous sound of the muskets and the blast of the bullets destabilized the horses and wreaked havoc on the Takeda ranks. The surviving horsemen pulled back in disarray, only to be shot at again as they attempted to reorganize their formations. Their repeated charges were quelled by coordinated musket salvos, a turning point in the battle. Sensing the desperate situation, Katsuyori opted to risk everything in an all-out attack, gathering the rest of his troops for a final assault. But the chaos and accumulated losses had already jeopardized the effectiveness of his army. The depleted and demoralized Takeda forces could not break through Nobunaga's meticulously crafted defenses. The poor coordination between units and the psychological impact of the massive casualties resulted in the Takeda army's organization collapsing. Many soldiers retreated in panic, abandoning the battlefield in shambles. Faced with imminent defeat, Katsuyori called for a retreat to save what was left of his army. However, this was met with relentless pursuit by Nobunaga and Ieyasu's forces, resulting in even more casualties for the Takeda. The prestige and might of the once invincible Takeda cavalry had been permanently shattered, and this marked the beginning of the clan's decline. Following the victory of Nagashino, Nobunaga cemented his control over the provinces previously controlled by the Takeda. He reshuffled the conquered lands among his most loyal allies, including Tokugawa Ieyasu, reinforcing the alliance between the two and ensuring the stability of the region. The destruction of the Takeda clan had a profound impact. Nobunaga proved that firearms, when used strategically, could surpass traditional cavalry tactics, marking a turning point in the warfare of the Sengoku period. This victory also consolidated his reputation as a visionary military strategist and as a leader prepared to adopt innovations to achieve his goals.